Hey guys, welcome back to the Hot Mess Murder Club for episode 2. My name is Kat, and it's going to be kind of a somber one today. Today's not going to be the vibe that we had hoped it would be, but that's okay because I have my emotional support Holly here with me from here on out. So everybody say hello to Holly, and Holly say hello to everybody.
Hey everybody, what's up?
She is my favorite person in the entire world, and I'm glad she is here. Anyways, like I said, today's going to be kind of a Debbie Downer, a really bad one. So we'll get it going for you right away because the sooner we can get into this, the sooner we can get the message out, and then the sooner we can sit and cry about it. Holly, are you ready?
I'm always ready.
All right. Well, let's do this. So today's case is going to be somber, like we said before. It's about Joseph Gorka from Missouri. And this case is especially important to us because his daughter, Corrie, is a very long-time friend of ours. She was the one who reached out to us to have us put her story out there, to put her father's story out there, her family's story, and we were happy to do so. She was supposed to be here on the episode today, and before you guys start in with the you duped us, you tricked us, you were going to have an interview, I do want to say that everything that we are going to say in this episode is from Corrie. All of the personal information, all of the case details, what she has seen, what she has noticed, all came from Corrie, and with her permission, we are going to be using it. She's not able to make it today for personal reasons. You guys can only imagine this crime happened on November 24th. So it's fresh, it's new, the holidays are coming up, she has a family to take care of. A last-minute cancellation is the least of her worries, and quite frankly, it's the least of our worries. So we're going to get into this, and once you guys hear what happened to her, I think you're totally going to understand. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, before we talk about the suspects, the theories, or any arrests, we're going to talk about the victim. So Joseph Gorka was the victim in this case, and this is Corrie's father. He was 76 years old when he was murdered. He was a Polish immigrant. He was born in a concentration camp in Germany before eventually immigrating to the United States. He lived a pretty simple and steady life. He worked one job his entire adult life, and that was for the airlines. Looks like it was TWA first and then American Airlines before he retired. So a pretty good life there. He got to meet a lot of people, go a lot of places, see a lot of things. That's pretty neat. And at 60 years old, Joseph suffered a heart attack and underwent a quadruple bypass, which for 60 years old, that's pretty dangerous, I would say. And then especially to live 16 years after that, that's insane. Joseph was a father who had already experienced a devastating loss. Corrie's brother died at 19 years old when she was just 9 years old. And after that, Corrie says, my dad only had me, which is pretty sad to make this story even worse. But later, Joseph became a grandfather, and not just in name. Corrie shared that Joseph helped raise her son, stepping in consistently when her son's father was not present. He came over 3 times a week to help babysit so Corrie could go to work, run errands, or just get through her normal day. And said that her father didn't need much. He lived for those moments with his grandson.
That's awesome. He already survived so much more than most people would.
Yeah. Just to go out this way, it's pretty awful.
Yeah, it's pretty tragic. So now let's talk about the suspect. Who they were, how they lived, what led them to the moment. The suspect in this case is Mikhail Suckerman. I believe I said that right.
Suckerman.
60 years old. Is it? Okay. Well, Tsukerman for anybody who wants to look it up. 60 years old at the time of the incident. And according to Corrie, Joseph had owned the condo in the Delcrest apartment complex, and Suckerman rented a unit across the hall, living with his mother, Frida. Okay, well, because Joseph owned the unit, sorry, it would figure that the suspects would be living with his mother, whatever.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, I mean, that's a horror story. Anyway, because Joseph had owned the unit, he couldn't just break the lease and leave. He owned the home. the unit that Zuckerman lived in was owned under an LLC, which repeatedly complicated enforcement and accountability. And according to Missouri court records, Zuckerman had been evicted from previous residence for, quote, disturbing the peace. Huh,
That's
figures.
interesting. I wonder what that is with Sukerman's home being leased under an LLC, which would cause complications with enforcement and accountability. That's strange. Like, I want to look
Sure.
that up and see how that could make a difference.
I,
Or if somebody knows, drop it in the comments and let us know because I'm curious about that.
yeah, I almost wonder if maybe, like, I don't know that personally. I don't know that apartment complex or condo complex. And I know that some people will buy out multiples and rent them out, which might have been the situation. Maybe the home that Zuckerman was renting or the apartment that they were renting was privately owned. And so the apartment complex itself may not have been held liable. And maybe they're having a hard time getting a hold of the person who actually owned them. So, like you said, if anybody knows. So then we go into what, the investigation?
Oh yeah, the investigation.
Mhm.
Well, there really didn't need to be too much of an investigation because obviously they knew who did it. But this part, you guys, this part kind of gets a little. This is where it gets really sad. Like I said, this girl, this happened to her dad, and this happened pretty close to where we live. I'm about 30 minutes away from St. Louis, about 30 minutes away from where this happened. Holly, you're about the same, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's it's close to us in more ways than one. This case here, it didn't begin with violence. It actually began with a complaint. So, about a year and a half before Joseph was killed, Joseph contacted property management and the HOA about a recurring issue. His neighbor's cat was urinating in the hallway outside of his unit, which I can understand. I wouldn't want somebody's
Gross.
cat pissing outside of my door either.
No, it's
So,
nasty.
yeah. But Joseph didn't want to track it into his home, so he filed complaints. And according to Corrie, from that point forward, the situation escalated. She says that Zuckerman developed what she describes as a vendetta. Both men began recording interactions. Corey says her father had numerous videos on his phone documenting these confrontations, and the police were repeatedly called. Now, she actually did send me a couple of these videos of the
Oh,
interactions, and I
really?
have to say, yeah, I have some in my phone, and I have to say that this Zuckerman character, he's unhinged. Like he's not mentally well. There's no, and this is my opinion. I'm not a professional, but there's no way that this man is mentally well by the way he was acting in these videos.
Well, the fact that it had all occurred and started over a cat peeing in the hallway, that should never escalate to anything this tragic. So
No,
clearly
absolutely not.
something's not right.
Yeah, I mean, and I have cats, and if my neighbor came over to me and said, "Hey, your cat is pissing in my poinsettias," I would, make sure that didn't happen again. Like it's just take care of your cat. Stop it.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
Yeah. Well, it should be embarrassing, but apparently not for old Sukerman.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, the police were repeatedly called, and Corey says that University City Police told her they knew her father well, having been dispatched to his condo 15 or more times due to disputes involving the neighbor and the cat issue. So now the police are
Wow.
coming over there at least 15 times because this guy is most likely mentally ill and refuses to do anything about his cat.
And this all started like a year ago?
Yeah, like a year and a half ago, she said.
So over the course of a year and a half, they've been filing complaints, they've been taking videos of one another, having these confrontations, and the police kept getting called over because of the disturbance that was because of the cat?
I think their interactions, judging by these videos,
Yeah.
which I would play over the microphone, but I think it'll just come out sounding like a distorted, shitty mess, so I'm not going to. I'll
Yeah.
ask her if I can post those in like the show notes, but I'm not going to do that until she says that I can. But either way, I think with it was starting with the cat issue and then it escalating from there in these videos that I have, they had to have been called for just like disturbance of peace. That had to be. It couldn't just be,
Sure.
I see your cat, I'm calling the cops. There's no way.
That cat's going to jail.
He's a menace. Take him away. Anyway, so Joseph did attempt to leave his condo. Corrie says that her father tried to sell his condo for over a year, repeatedly
Wow.
listing it, lowering the price, and no buyers came through. So he was consistently trying to leave because, as you remember, like you said, he owns it. He can't just break the lease and get the fuck out, even if he's scared or annoyed or tracking cat piss through his house. He
Yeah,
couldn't.
if no one could do anything to get rid of the other guy, he was trying to fix the problem himself.
Right, and he was going through all the right channels to do it too, which makes this even more sad. And we'll get into that a little bit later. And the conflict actually entered into the court system. So Corey says Sukerman took her dad to court, accusing him of sexual harassment and discrimination.
Where does sexual
Joseph, ca-
harassment come in?
I don't know. I don't know.
That's
She doesn't know. I I can't see her 76-year-old father sexually harassing this man after all of this that's been going on. I don't know. It doesn't make sense, but nothing this guy does make sense. As in the suspect, not Joseph.
Sure.
Everything Joseph does makes perfect sense. Anyway, so then Joseph counterfiled for harassment, rightfully so. And these cases were consistently dismissed. And the
Wow.
day before Joseph was murdered, Corey says that there is a record of an altercation on Joseph's phone, which the detectives now have in evidence. So she has not seen it, I don't believe. And I know that she did not send that to me. So I don't know what that evidence is. And it could be something very vital to the case, to the prosecution. We don't know.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh,
Wow.
man. So, Holly,
Yeah,
are you
that's
ready for this?
no, I don't think anybody was ready for this. um, yeah.
Look, guys, I don't want to, I'm not excited to read this next part. Okay. Buckle up. So, this is how the murder happened. This is the murder itself. So uh, on November 24th at approximately 3 p.m., Joseph Gorka was attacked in the hallway of his building, not inside his apartment. The suspect lived directly across the hall. According to charging documents, Mikhail Sukerman struck Joseph with a metal bed frame rail. The medical
Wow.
examiner determined the cause of death to be blunt force trauma, and the manner of death was ruled a homicide. Oh, God. Corey later viewed her father after his death, and she said that it was not just one single strike. Corey described repeated blows to the face and head, resulting in catastrophic facial injuries. And that's rage right there.
Yeah,
That this was
that's perfect.
built
I
up
just got
aggression.
goosebumps.
Me too. Me too. Corey described her father's face as so severely damaged that it was difficult to recognize him. She explained that his mouth had been displaced upward into the area where his eyes should have been. She said
Oh
that it
man.
didn't look real, that it looked like a prop from a horror movie and not like her father. She said that survival, would never have been possible.
Oh my God.
That that's how she
I
described it.
well, the way she describes it really puts the image in your head, and I I could only imagine seeing something that horrific. You would only think of it as fake. You wouldn't think of that as being real, and
Mm.
especially with it being your own blood relatives. Like, that's tragic and horrifying, and old boy needs his ass kicked. I don't know.
Right, have
It's
fun in
messed
jail.
up. Wow.
I know. I can't imagine what she's going through. I hope take a moment here. It's for everybody just to have Corey in your thoughts. I know that she wanted us to do this for her. She really did want to be here, but this is pretty catastrophic. This is terrible, and we all feel for her. And I just want you guys to kind of keep her in your thoughts because this is recent. This just happened.
Yeah, her and her child. Keep both of them in your thoughts because
Yeah.
um it's sad. And they need all the support they can, especially going into the holiday season. It's rough.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. It's going into Christmas and she's dealing with
Well,
this.
it happened 3 days before Thanksgiving. So, like, that ruined her Thanksgiving holiday. Now they're going into Christmas. Like, And it being so fresh, it's only been a few weeks since it actually happened. I mean, she's probably still grieving fairly heavily as far as I would imagine, which is probably why she was unavailable to jump on this call with us today.
Yeah, and I told her when she reached out to see if we would do this for her, I was like, "Are you sure you're gonna be able to do that? I mean, we'll do it for you, not a problem, but we didn't wanna just put it out there without making sure that she was gonna be okay with this," and she was. And I feel so terrible for her, but
Yeah.
we're gonna go ahead and get into the aftermath, and Holly, I'm gonna let you cover this one because I need a moment to recover after that.
Mm. All right, take your moment. Um, well, as of the recording of this episode, the criminal case is currently ongoing. Mikhail Sukerman has been charged with second-degree murder and armed criminal action. Corey says that Sukerman is expected to be indicted later this week. The defense has not yet presented its case publicly, so we really aren't sure how that's going to go or if they have any additional evidence that we don't know about yet because Corey has not been able to get all of the case information from the police so far. So this is still pretty far from over. Mikhail Sukerman was released on a bond. Wow. And here's the part Corey says is almost unbearable. Despite being charged in connection with Joseph Gorka's death, Sukerman was able to return to the same building after being released. So he did this heinous crime, goes to jail, gets out on a bond, and goes back to that same hallway, that same door, the same space where Joseph was beaten to death and killed. Um, that's wow.
That's insane. How is that even able to happen? Like, all right, yeah,
I
you're
don't
gonna
know.
go ahead and get out on bond. Just go home, have a good day. We'll see you later back in court. Like, that's
Right.
insane.
How do you trust somebody? A killer. That's what drives me crazy. The city of St. Louis is trying to get all of the crime under control because we're such a dangerous city, but yet they're letting the murderers right back out onto the streets because they have a few bucks to pay for or have someone bail them out. So as long as you could pay your bond, it's okay to get back out of jail and go ahead and murder someone else.
Right, and where's Frida? Do we trust Frida to keep him in check while
Frida
he's
probably
out?
fucking Frida. She's probably the one that bailed his ass out.
She probably is.
If he's back home, he's got nowhere else to go. How else would he have gotten out? He's living with his mom. He doesn't have money.
God, how embarrassing for her.
I mean, she did it to herself by bailing him out
If she
or
did,
even allowing him back.
allegedly.
Allegedly,
If she
whatever.
did.
I'm sorry. It was her.
I can't see him having many friends that would want to
Yeah.
spend that kind of money to
Somebody
get
like
him back
Gipper
out
didn't have a
after
whole
what he
lot.
did.
Anyway, Corey says this is especially infuriating because Joseph's condo was left to her in his will. So after all of this, she gets his condo, and yet she has to live with the reality that the man accused of killing her father may still be across the hall, that she could potentially see him in the place where her father died. And she's supposed to just go back to her dad's condo and doesn't know what she's going to feel or who she might run into or how any interactions may go. She questioned how this was even allowed to happen at all, like you said. Like, it's cruel, it's messed up, and that's just a huge failure on the justice system, in my opinion. They should have never. And I, I'm speechless, and it's a lot to get me to shut up.
It really is a lot to get you to shut up, I'll tell you that, but this is definitely one way to do it.
Yeah, I'm pissed for her. I'm mad at the situation. I'm mad at the justice system in our city. These police officers that are supposed to be protecting us and our community are just letting these people back out and not thinking about how it affects any of the survivors or the victims' families or anybody else that may have been affected by any of these happenings. It's not just in this case, but in this situation, it just affects Corey so much more because now she's there. That's hers. That's her place. And she's stuck with this man that lives across the hall now and going to have that reminder every day that the guy that killed her father is right across the hall.
God, can you imagine, like, if she decides to stay in that condo? I don't know if she is or isn't. I don't even know if she knows yet. But can you imagine if she was staying there and like she's walking out to go to work and then this guy walks out of the door across the hall? Like, how do the police think that's gonna go? Did they really think
I
that that's a great idea, a brilliant plan?
I don't know. I've seen enough episodes of Snapped to say, like, I'm speaking from from me, not from Corey. I feel like if it were me in that situation, you can only face this person or deal with it so much or so many times before it becomes overwhelming and something's going to become a trigger. And you don't want, for Corey's sake and for the sake of her child and for the sake of her father's honor and memory, you don't want that to go any further south than it already has. So, as far as I'm concerned, it might be in her best interest if the courts or the police or whoever or Frida isn't going to do anything to get this Mikhail guy out of there for her to just, in my opinion, I would have to get rid of it because otherwise I'd be the next one on trial.
Yeah, I'd be covering a case about you next. Only I'd be like, and get it, girl.
You got what you
Uh,
got. I
yeah.
mean, I might be calling you to bail me out. You'd be my Frida.
I'll be your Frida. Oh, fuck. Anyways, I'm interested to see the rest of how this goes.
Well, later when Corey went to retrieve her father's belongings, she somehow felt like she was being haunted. She had walked into her father's place, and Joseph had laid out his car key fob, his spare key fob, and all of his important documents, like anything that she might need, as if he had prepared for something to happen. And 3 days before his death, Joseph told her exactly what he would like for her to do with his ashes.
See, that
Then the
creeps me
day
out.
Yeah, it's like he knew it was coming, and, I mean, he just wanted to be prepared. It was that bad.
Yeah, think of it from his point of view. He's called the cops how many times trying to get this guy to stop harassing him, stop bothering him, stop knocking on his door and screaming into his corridor,
Mm,
and they're doing absolutely nothing. He feels helpless.
yeah, and the day that he died, Joseph was actually supposed to go over to Corey's house and help rake leaves. Instead, when her son went to call his grandfather to say goodnight, the detectives in St. Louis were the ones that had answered Joseph's phone. Corey had said that moment is the moment that everything just became real.
Oh my
And I just
god.
don't know how anyone carries that. Yeah. I like, can you imagine calling to say, "Hey, why aren't you over here raking leaves, grandpa?" And instead, you please answer your grandpa's phone. You find out the most horrible thing that you can imagine just happened over the phone by the police.
That's
It's
awful. That poor kid. Man, because
yeah.
I mean, Joseph spent a ton of time with her son. So that was probably more like a second dad and a grandpa to him. And then to have that news broken to him like that after going about a regular day and thinking maybe grandpa just couldn't make it or maybe forgot or wasn't feeling
Mm,
good. And then you call him and that's what you get? Absolutely not. Frida.
yeah. Fucking Frida.
I'm going to edit that out.
Sorry.
All right. So, after all of this, after these terrible incidents have occurred, and after everything that had followed that is just as terrible and haunting, Joseph Gorka's family is not asking for outrage. They're asking for accountability. Corey is
Yes.
pursuing public records under Missouri's Sunshine Law to document how many times police were dispatched and why no intervention occurred. If you work in housing enforcement, property management, or law enforcement, this case is a reminder of what happens when responsibility is deferred. And for everyone listening, if you see a situation escalating, document it and push for action. Don't accept silence as resolution. Joseph Gorka should be remembered not how he died, but for how he lived and for the failures that must not be repeated. It's just
Yes.
awful.
Wow. Well said. Couldn't agree more.
I mean, that's just true. And I don't know, Holly, do you know what the Missouri Sunshine Law is to kind of clarify that part for you or anybody?
To kind of clarify, I mean, I did look it up, and to be completely honest, I didn't read through the whole thing. I kind of got the bits and pieces out of it. Would you care to enlighten me? Because I feel like you probably already have that printed out in front of you.
Oh, well, I don't have it printed out in front of me, but where I work, we deal with sunshine law requests, so I know a little bit about it. So basically, Missouri Sunshine Law is a way for somebody to request an official document or information from a government agency, the police department, government center, for information that doesn't quote unquote belong to you. So, say, for instance, you want to know something about a violation on your neighbor's property. Well, you can't call up there and just ask them what's going on over there. Like, do they have any violations? They can say, yeah, they do. But if you want the details, that's when you have to file a sunshine request. And then they have like about 30 days, I think, to send you the information.
Well, in this case, since Joseph only had Corey, and with what had happened with him and his passing and her trying to get any more of those documents, I feel like she shouldn't have to jump through that many hoops because ultimately that was next of kin. That is all he had left. Like, so just as his house goes to her, his car goes to her, all of his life, everything is hers now, just as I was the person who was the executor of the estate on my father. It's her dad. She shouldn't have to jump through hoops to get information about her dad or anything that pertained to what had led up to this point. I feel like with his passing, that automatically gets transferred to her, provided she shows a death certificate to prove, just to get some answers.
I agree. And I don't know, because personally, I have not dealt with a situation quite like this when it comes to the sunshine requests. But it feels like even if that were the case, say that because he has passed away and she's next of kin and she's requesting this information, I feel like as
Mhm.
well that it should just be handed over to her. And maybe
Yeah.
in the Sunshine Law bill or whatever it is, they still are not allowed to because technically it's still not hers, it's his. So she still has to do it. Or they're really just trying to slow down the process of her finding out what happened with those 15 plus last incidents that he called for to find out what actually happened with those because it's a possibility that there's something on there that they might not want her to know about because I do know she has her own civil attorney. I don't know exactly what she's going after, what she's going for. I didn't ask. I don't think it's my business. But and that could be part of it. I don't know. So maybe they're dragging their feet just because they don't want somebody to see something.
Well, I mean, if you knew you were about to get in trouble because you fell short somewhere where you could have done a better job, you don't want to take the blame on that if you can hide it, right? It's the same situation. So if the courts or the police or whoever didn't do or file or whatever when these confrontations were had, if people were just sweeping it under the rug and then it escalated the way it did, and now they're like, oh crap, what do we do? Because now the family's going to come after us. Corey knows that her dad had been documenting this and the police already being involved, and they had already admitted they'd been involved and dispatched there 15 plus times, whatever, over the situation, but nothing was ever done or handled properly at that point. This is very much a preventable situation. This should have never happened. It it's disgusting.
Yeah, you said it exactly right. It's a gigantic failure across the board. And I think they're just trying to avoid accountability. If that's the case, I don't want to say that that is what's happening, that the police are trying to
Yeah.
hold information back. I'm not saying that. Don't come for me with the bullshit. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if they are, it's just trying to avoid the accountability of it, and that's the part that is just really upsetting. And she's not going to know until they finally hand everything over. So this case is still ongoing. It's currently going through the courts. You can find it on Missouri CaseNet if you want to follow along, I guess. I don't really want to put it that way, but you can't see much, but you can at least see when trial dates are. um, I don't know if we're gonna come back and do any kind of update on this
Follow up.
one. It's pretty obvious who did it. I read on Fox 2 that when they found Sukerman, he was standing out there, he had blood on his hands, and he pretty much said that he was the one who did it. So it's not like there's a mystery, it's just a tragedy, and it needs to be told because I feel like this 100% could have been absolutely avoided. You know, this just should not have happened in the first place. And it's just terrible that it happened to an elderly man. It's terrible that it happened to our friend. And it's terrible that it just happened over the reason that it happened for. That's the shittiest part, is because this dude just couldn't take any kind of responsibility for his fucking cat. It's just so stupid that this happened.
Dude, some resolve could have resolved the situation.
Closing your door could have resolved this situation. Stop letting your cat out of your house. Easy.
We'll blame that one on Frida too.
She probably was the one leaving the door open. Let's be realistic. I don't know Frida. I'm sure she's a lady of some kind. I don't know, but she could have kept an eye on her son or gotten him the help that he probably needs.
I mean, he's 60. Yeah. She shouldn't have to pay attention and keep an eye on him unless he is mentally unstable, in which case he shouldn't have been running free in the city anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's like I said, the whole thing could have been avoided if a whole bunch of different people did their job. Not even just the police, but the condo association, the HOA, the cat owner. Like, this is all on them, is who it's on. It's not on Joseph. It's not on Corrie. It's on all of those people who didn't do anything about it when there was clearly a problem. Okay. So if you see something happening, like I said, if you see something escalating, document it, push for action, and do not accept silence as a resolution. Do not let this happen to somebody else, to somebody who you care about, to somebody who you care about, to a person that they care about. Just don't. Just fucking don't. Just stop it. Don't stop it like Superman stopped it. What'd you say?
Silence isn't neutral. Silence is a choice.
That's deep. That's deep.
Deep. Thanks.
Don't get weird. Not at the end. We just made it. Okay, so anyway, that is going to be it for today's episode of Hot Mess Murder Club. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should. New episodes drop every Monday, and consistency is how you establish an alibi. So until next time, pay attention to the warning signs that people ignore, because this story, it didn't end in tragedy by accident. It ended that way because nobody intervened. So intervene. Be an intervener. That's it for today. My name is Kat.
My name's Holly.
And we will see you next Monday. Goodbye. Say bye, Kiki.